Angela, the new police chief, gripped the steering wheel with determination, while her husband Michael gazed at the well-kept suburban homes. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In the back seat, 13-year-old Jasmine and 8-year-old Kevin could barely contain their excitement. Moving to Maplewood marked a new chapter in their lives, full of promises and challenges. As the car slowed in front of their new home, the curious stares of neighbors didn't go unnoticed. Angela took a deep breath, aware that they would be the only black family in the neighborhood. With a reassuring smile to her children, she parked the car, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Keys in hand, the Johnson family crossed the neatly trimmed lawn toward their new house. The two-story home, with its red brick facade and white-trimmed windows, looked welcoming and full of potential. Michael opened the front door, revealing a spacious entryway. The scent of fresh paint filled the air, mixing with the promise of new beginnings. Angela walked through the ground floor, imagining where they would place the furniture and how they would turn the space into a true home. The modern kitchen and spacious living room were already coming to life in her mind. Meanwhile, the excited sounds of Jasmine and Kevin echoed from upstairs, their voices full of enthusiasm as they explored their new rooms. Jasmine and Kevin dashed up the stairs 2 steps at a time, eager to see their new spaces. Jasmine opened the first door on the right, revealing a spacious room with pastel-colored walls. Her eyes lit up at the sight of a small nook, perfect for her study desk. Kevin, meanwhile, burst into the room next door, letting out a joyful shout when he saw the rocket and planet wallpaper. Immediately, he began planning where to put his car collection and his Lego table. The siblings exchanged excited glances, already imagining late-night conversations through the thin wall separating their rooms. From the master bedroom window, Angela watched the quiet Maplewood street carefully. The row of houses, with their well-manicured gardens and luxury cars in the driveways, told a story of prosperity and tradition. However, something stood out to her: the glaring lack of diversity. White families walked their dogs or chatted on the sidewalks, casting curious and sometimes wary glances toward the Johnsons' new home. Angela felt a tightness in her chest, recognizing the challenges ahead. As the police chief, she knew she would have to navigate not only her professional responsibilities, but also the complexities of being a trailblazer in this community. Determined, she promised herself that she would turn those stares into welcoming smiles. From the porches and windows of nearby homes, curtains shifted subtly, and curious eyes watched the new family unload the moving truck. Whispers rippled through the street like a gentle summer breeze. "Did you see? The new family is different," Mrs. Thompson murmured to her husband, adjusting her glasses for a better view. Across the street, Mr. Davis watched with interest, noticing the police badge Angela carried. Some kids rode their bikes slowly past the Johnson house, their expressions a mix of curiosity and uncertainty. The arrival of the black family was causing a ripple in the calm waters of Maplewood, and everyone sensed that change was in the air. That evening, after the kids had gone to bed, Angela and Michael sat on the back porch, cups of tea in hand, gazing at the starry sky of their new town. "Did you notice the stairs today?" Angela asked softly. Michael nodded, his face a mix of concern and determination. "It's going to be tough at first, but we're strong. We'll show them who we really are," he replied, squeezing his wife's hand. They discussed the challenges ahead, how the kids would adjust to school, Angela's acceptance as the police chief, and how to deal with possible subtle prejudices. Despite their worries, there was a glimmer of hope in their eyes. They knew they had a unique opportunity to make a difference in this community. Twilight gave way to night, and the Johnson house finally fell silent after a busy day of unpacking. Angela walked through the rooms, checking doors and windows, her police instincts blending with maternal concern. In Jasmine's room, she adjusted the blanket over her sleeping daughter, noting the posters still waiting to be hung. In the next room, she smiled as she saw Kevin cuddling his favorite teddy bear, surrounded by boxes of toys. Back in the master bedroom, she found Michael organizing his suits in the closet. They exchanged a knowing glance, full of hope and apprehension. As they got ready for bed, Angela couldn't help but think about her new role as police chief and the challenges tomorrow would bring. With a determined sigh, she turned off the light, ready to face whatever came next. Angela's first day as Maplewood's police chief dawned sunny but laden with expectations. As she entered the station, dressed in her perfectly pressed uniform, she felt all eyes turned toward her. The momentary silence was broken by hesitant greetings and a few forced smiles. Angela walked confidently to her new office, aware of the whispers following her. During the morning briefing, she introduced herself to the team, outlining her expectations and vision for the department. Some officers seemed receptive, others clearly skeptical. A whispered comment. How did she get this job? Did not escape her sharp ears. Angela maintained her composure, knowing she would have to prove herself not just as a cop, but as a black woman in a position of leadership. Determined to build ties with the community, Michael spent the morning tending to the front yard. Dressed in a faded t-shirt and shorts, he began mowing the lawn and planting some colorful flowers. As he worked, he noticed neighbors passing by, some offering hesitant waves, others avoiding eye contact. Michael smiled and waved back, trying to initiate casual conversations. "Good morning. Beautiful day, isn't it?" he called out to a couple walking their dog. He received a quick nod in response. Undeterred, he continued his work, determined to make the yard an invitation for future interactions. When he finished, he looked proudly at the result, hoping that this small act of care for their property would be the first step toward acceptance in the neighborhood. While watering the newly planted flowers, Michael noticed Mrs. Thompson, a middle-aged woman, watching him intently from her porch. Deciding to be proactive, he crossed the street with a friendly smile. "Hello, I'm Michael Johnson. We just moved in. It's a pleasure to meet you." Mrs. Thompson hesitated before replying curtly. "Yes, I noticed. I hope you adapt well to our quiet neighborhood." Her tone implied much more than her words. Michael, keeping his cool, responded, "I'm sure we will. We love the peace and beauty here." The conversation remained tense, with veiled comments from Mrs. Thompson about maintaining the character of the neighborhood and certain standards. Michael politely excused himself, feeling the weight of prejudice but determined not to let it shake his resolve to make Maplewood their home. Jasmine's first day at Maplewood High School began with nervous anticipation and ended with suppressed tears. During lunch, as she looked for a place to sit, she heard giggles and whispered comments. "Look, the new girl. Bet she only got in here because of quotas." In the hallway, a group of girls gave her a once-over, one of them commenting loudly enough for Jasmine to hear, "Your hair is so different. Ever thought about straightening it?" In history class, when the topic of slavery came up, all eyes turned to her, as if expecting her to be the spokesperson for an entire race. Jasmine fought to keep her composure, feeling isolated and marked. On her way home, she wondered how she would face another day like this and whether she would ever truly fit in at her new school. On the elementary school playground, Kevin anxiously watched the other kids play. Summoning his courage, he approached a group playing basketball. "Can I play too?" he asked shyly. The boys exchanged glances before one of them replied, I think we already have full teams." Kevin noticed there were only 9 players. Disappointed, He walked away, sitting alone on a swing. During snack time, he tried again to make friends, offering to share his favorite cookies. One boy hesitantly accepted, but the ensuing silence was uncomfortable. In art class, while drawing his family, he overheard a classmate whisper, "Why is he using brown to color the people?" Kevin pretended not to hear but felt a knot form in his throat. By the end of the day, he wondered if he would ever make real friends at this new school. At Maplewood's monthly Homeowners Association meeting, the main topic wasn't on the official agenda, but it dominated every conversation in small groups. "Have you heard about the new police chief?" whispered Mr. Davis. "A black woman, can you believe it?" Mrs. Peterson replied with a frown. "How did that happen?" Maplewood's always had a traditional police force. Others joined the conversation, expressing veiled concerns about changes in law enforcement and whether the community would remain safe. Some argued they should give the new chief a chance, while others discreetly planned ways to keep an eye on the situation. The tension was palpable, with opinions divided between those open to change and those fearing a shift in Maplewood's status quo. The meeting ended with more questions than answers, and a lingering sense of unease in the air. That night, after the kids had gone to bed, Angela and Michael sat in the kitchen, cups of coffee in hand, sharing the day's events. Angela spoke about the wary looks at the station, the subtly challenging questions about her qualifications. Michael recounted the tense conversation with Mrs. Thompson and the cold reactions from other neighbors. Both had noticed Jasmine and Kevin's unusual quietness during dinner. "This is harder than we expected." Angela sighed. Michael nodded, taking her hand. "But we're strong. We're a family. We'll get through this together." They discussed strategies to help the kids, ways to integrate into the community, and how Angela could earn the respect of her subordinates. Despite the exhaustion in their eyes, there was an unshakable determination. They knew change wouldn't come easily, but they were ready for the challenge. At Sunday breakfast, the Johnson family discussed plans for Kevin's upcoming birthday. "What if we threw a party here at home?" Angela suggested, watching Kevin's face light up at the idea. Michael hesitated, thinking about the tensions with the neighbors, but seeing his son's excitement, he agreed. It would be a great opportunity to get to know the other families better, he reasoned. Jasmine, still cautious after her experiences at school, offered to help with the decorations. The family spent the morning excitedly planning a superhero theme, backyard games, a big cake. Kevin made a list of classmates to invite, hopeful that this might help him make friends. Angela and Michael exchanged glances, mixing hope with apprehension, knowing this party could be a turning point in their integration into the Maplewood community. In the days leading up to the party, Angela juggled her responsibilities as police chief with the birthday preparations. During her lunch breaks, she rushed to buy decorations and party supplies. In the evenings, after long days at the station, she dedicated herself to planning games and activities that could entertain both kids and adults. She was determined to make this party not just a celebration for Kevin, but also an opportunity to show the neighbors that they were an ordinary family, eager to fit into the community. Angela spent hours in the kitchen perfecting Kevin's favorite cake recipe, hoping that this homemade gesture might melt some of the barriers they felt around them. As she worked, she couldn't help but worry about the reception they would get, but she remained optimistic, believing in the power of a simple birthday party to bring people together. Kevin, with a mix of nerves and excitement, handed out colorful invitations to his classmates. Some received the invites with genuine smiles, others with visible hesitation. In the neighborhood, Michael and Jasmine took turns delivering invitations door to door. Reactions varied drastically. Some neighbors, like the young couple at the end of the street, seemed genuinely enthusiastic, while others barely hid their surprise and discomfort. Mrs. Thompson, upon receiving her invitation, frowned and muttered something about checking her schedule. Jasmine overheard whispers behind a newly closed door. Do you think we should go? What will people think? The RSVPs trickled in slowly, with more declines than acceptances. Despite this, the Johnson family remained optimistic, focusing on the few who showed genuine interest in attending. The morning of the party arrived with a mix of expectation and anxiety in the Johnson household. Angela and Michael woke up early, transforming the backyard into a superhero haven. Colorful balloons danced in the breeze, banners reading, "Happy Birthday, Kevin," stretched between the trees, and a snack table was carefully arranged, filled with homemade and healthy treats. Jasmine helped Kevin into his superhero costume, both laughing and playing, momentarily forgetting their worries. Michael manned the grill, filling the air with the inviting scent of burgers. Angela put the finishing touches on the cake, a 3-tier masterpiece decorated with a Spider-Man emblem. The family worked in harmony, each member contributing to making the day special, not just for Kevin, but as a silent statement of their desire to belong. The sound of the doorbell announced the arrival of the first guests, sending a wave of excitement through the Johnson home. Kevin rushed to the door, his face glowing with anticipation. To his relief and joy, it was his new friend from school, Tommy, accompanied by his parents, who looked a bit uncomfortable but were smiling. Angela and Michael greeted them warmly, offering drinks and starting casual conversations. Slowly, more kids began to arrive, some with parents. Others dropped off quickly at the curb. The initially tense atmosphere began to lift with the children's laughter and the smell of food in the air. Jasmine noticed some of her classmates arriving, pleasantly surprised. However, she also caught sight of curious glances and even a few whispered comments among some adults. The Johnson family worked hard to make everyone feel welcome, hoping that this party could be the start of truly integrating into Maplewood. Watching the party from her living room window, Mrs. Thompson felt a mixture of disapproval and curiosity. The sounds of laughter and music floated through the air, grating on her nerves. She noticed unfamiliar cars parked on the street, children running around the yard, and adults chatting in small groups. "This is too much," she muttered to herself, picking up the phone. With trembling fingers, she dialed the police station. "Hello, I'd like to report excessive noise and a possible disturbance on Birchwood Lane," she said, her voice quivering with indignation. "There's a party going on, and it's getting out of hand." She hesitated for a moment before adding, "And there are a lot of people who aren't from around here." Hanging up the phone, Mrs. Thompson returned to the window, a satisfied smile on her lips, waiting to see the arrival of the police cars. The sound of distant sirens caused the chatter at the party to die down. Angela, still wearing her supermom apron, frowned, recognizing the familiar sound. When the police car pulled up in front of the house, a tense silence fell over the guests. Officer Johnson, a rookie on the force, stepped out of the car, looking uncomfortable. His eyes widened as he recognized his chief. "Chief Johnson, we got a complaint about noise and," he stammered. Angela, maintaining her composure, invited him in. "Officer Johnson, welcome to my son's birthday party. As you can see, everything is under control here." She guided him through the backyard, introducing him to the guests, many of whom looked relieved at the friendly interaction. The young officer, clearly embarrassed, muttered apologies and promised to handle future complaints more discreetly. As he left, Angela couldn't help but notice the curtains shifting at Mrs. Thompson's house. After Officer Johnson's departure, Angela kept a calm smile for the guests, but inside she was boiling with anger and frustration. Using her crisis management skills, she quickly gathered the adults. "I apologize for the inconvenience," she began, her voice firm but gentle. "As you can see, we're just celebrating my son's birthday. I appreciate your understanding and hope we can continue our party in harmony with the neighborhood." Her professional approach calmed everyone down, and soon the party resumed its rhythm. However, Angela couldn't ignore the incident. She made a mental note to address the issue at the station and consider implementing bias training. As she watched the kids playing, she struggled with the feeling that her family was under constant scrutiny, determined not to let the incident ruin Kevin's special day. While Angela dealt with the adults, Michael noticed Kevin slipping away from the party, his face a mix of confusion and sadness. Following his son to a quiet corner of the yard, Michael knelt to Kevin's level. "Hey, champ, is everything okay?" he asked gently. Kevin, with tears in his eyes, whispered, "Why did the police come? Did we do something wrong?" Michael felt his heart sink. He hugged Kevin, carefully explaining, "No, son, we didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes people don't understand things that are different, and that scares them. But we're here to show them that we're just like any other family." He wiped Kevin's tears and continued, "The important thing is that we have each other and friends who support us. Let's go back to your party and have fun, okay?" With a small smile returning to Kevin's face, father and son walked back hand in hand to the celebration, determined not to let the incident spoil the special day. During the party, Jasmine overheard a whispered comment from one of her classmates, Tyler. "I can't believe the police actually came. Maybe they thought something illegal was going on here." Feeling a wave of anger and frustration, Jasmine decided it was time to stand up. Approaching Tyler, she spoke in a firm but controlled voice. "What did you mean by that, Tyler?" The boy, caught off guard, stammered a vague response. Jasmine continued, "You know, comments like that hurt. We're just a family like anyone else here. The only illegal thing happening is prejudice." Other classmates gathered around, some looking uncomfortable, others nodding in agreement. Tyler, embarrassed, muttered an apology. Jasmine, feeling both exhausted and empowered, finished with, "We're all here to celebrate. How about we focus on that?" The group slowly dispersed, but Jasmine noticed some admiring glances from her peers, feeling that maybe, just maybe, she had made a small difference. The morning after the party, Angela called for an emergency meeting with the entire police force. Standing tall, with a determined look in her eyes, she addressed the elephant in the room. "Yesterday, I had an unexpected visit from one of our officers at my son's birthday party," she began, scanning the faces of her officers. "I want to make it clear that calls based on bias will not be tolerated." Angela detailed the incident, emphasizing the importance of assessing each situation impartially. "We are guardians of the law, not of personal prejudices," she stated firmly. Some officers looked uncomfortable, while others nodded in agreement. Angela announced the immediate implementation of bias training and community policing workshops. "We are here to serve and protect all citizens of Maplewood, without exception. I expect every one of you to stand with me in this mission." The meeting ended in thoughtful silence, but Angela felt she had planted an important seed for change. In the days following the party, Maplewood buzzed with conversations about the incident. In cafes, backyard gatherings, and sidewalk chats, neighbors debated what had happened. Some, like the young couple from down the street, expressed outrage at how the Johnsons had been treated. "It's shameful that someone called the police on a child's birthday party," Sarah, the wife, commented. Others, led by Mrs. Thompson, defended the action, citing concerns about changes in the neighborhood. At the local park, mothers discussed whether they should let their kids play with Kevin and Jasmine. Mr. Davis, a respected elder, surprised many by saying, "Maybe it's time we gave the Johnsons a chance. They seem like good people." Opinions were clearly divided, creating a palpable tension in the once peaceful Maplewood community. The Johnsons' arrival had inadvertently forced the neighborhood to confront its hidden biases and reconsider what it meant to be a community. A week after the incident, Mrs. Thompson received an unexpected call from the police station. With trembling hands, she agreed to a request to meet with Chief Johnson. Walking into Angela's office, Mrs. Thompson was surprised by the calm professionalism of her reception. Angela began, "Mrs. Thompson, I understand you were the one who made the call about the party." The woman nodded nervously. Angela continued, "I'd like to understand your concerns and maybe clear up some misunderstandings." Over the next hour, they had a frank conversation about community expectations, biases, and the impact of seemingly small actions. Angela shared stories about her career and family, humanizing herself in Mrs. Thompson's eyes. By the end, while not fully convinced, Mrs. Thompson left with a broader perspective and a touch of shame for her hasty actions. Reflecting on the recent events, Angela realized that the party incident could be turned into an opportunity for positive change. She began drafting a comprehensive plan to improve relations between the police and the community, as well as to promote diversity and inclusion in Maplewood. Angela scheduled meetings with community leaders, including local church representatives, school principals, and members of the Homeowners Association. Her goal was to create a series of workshops and events that could educate and unite the community. She also planned to implement a more robust community policing program, encouraging her officers to engage more actively with residents in non-emergency situations. At night, she shared her ideas with Michael, who offered his full support and suggested involving the kids in some of the initiatives. Angela went to bed that night feeling energized and hopeful, determined to turn a moment of adversity into a catalyst for lasting change in Maplewood. Determined to address the growing tensions, Angela decided to host a community meeting at the police station. She spent days carefully planning, choosing a date that would allow maximum participation, and preparing an agenda that addressed everyone's concerns. Invitations were sent to every household in Maplewood, emphasizing the importance of open dialogue and building a stronger community. Angela worked with her team to transform the station's meeting hall into a welcoming space, removing physical barriers and creating a more informal atmosphere. She rehearsed her opening speech countless times, seeking the perfect balance of assertiveness and empathy. As the day of the meeting approached, Angela felt a mixture of nerves and hope, knowing this event could be a crucial turning point for Maplewood. In the hours leading up to the meeting, Angela and her team worked tirelessly to create an environment conducive to open dialogue. Chairs were arranged in a circle, eliminating the traditional hierarchy of speaker and audience. Colorful posters with messages about mutual respect and community decorated the walls. A table with refreshments and light snacks was set up, adding a touch of hospitality. Angela insisted on casual dress for her team, avoiding uniforms that could be intimidating. Microphones were tested to ensure that all voices could be heard. A whiteboard was strategically placed to record ideas and concerns. Informational brochures about community programs and crime statistics were laid out, promoting transparency. As the final touches were made, Angela took a deep breath, visualizing her goal of building bridges of understanding on this crucial night. As the meeting time approached, Maplewood residents began arriving at the police station. The air was thick with tension and anticipation. Mrs. Thompson entered hesitantly, casting nervous glances around. Young families, older residents, and even a few teenagers filled the room, creating a hum of low, apprehensive voices. Angela, standing at the entrance, greeted each person with a warm smile, thanking them for coming. She noticed groups forming, Johnson supporters on one side, skeptics on the other. Michael arrived with Jasmine and Kevin, receiving curious looks. Mr. Davis, the respected elder, walked in with his cane, nodding respectfully to Angela. As the seats filled up, the murmurs grew louder, mingling with the sound of chairs being shuffled and whispered conversations. Angela took a deep breath, preparing to start what promised to be a challenging but potentially transformative evening for the Maplewood community. With every seat taken and an expectant hush falling over the room, Angela stepped into the center of the circle. Her gaze swept over the faces in front of her, establishing a visual connection with every part of the community. She began her speech in a firm but compassionate voice. "Good evening, everyone. I sincerely thank you for being here tonight. Maplewood is more than just a place we live. It's our home, our community." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Recently, we've faced challenges that have tested the fabric of our community. But I'm here tonight not to point fingers or assign blame. I'm here so that together, we can build bridges of understanding." Angela shared her vision of a diverse, united community where the law protects everyone equally. She spoke about mutual respect, about the fear of the unknown, and how to overcome it. Each of us plays a vital role in this community. Whether you've lived here for years or just arrived, your voice matters, your concerns are valid, and your belonging is unquestionable. She concluded with a call to action. Let's use tonight not just to talk, but to listen. Not just to express our concerns, but to find solutions. Together, we can make Maplewood a model of harmony and inclusion for the entire country. When Angela finished, there was a moment of deep silence, followed by hesitant but growing applause. After Angela's speech, the room filled with voices of residents eager to share their perspectives. Mrs. Thompson, her voice trembling, expressed her fears about changes in the neighborhood, but also admitted to feeling ashamed of her past actions. A young black father shared experiences of microaggressions his family faced daily. Tears were shed when a teenage girl described the bullying she endured at school for being different. Mr. Davis surprised everyone by talking about how his perspective had shifted after getting to know the Johnsons. "I realized my fears were unfounded," he said. Michael Johnson shared his family's dream of putting down roots in a welcoming community. Jasmine, bravely, stood up to speak about the importance of mutual education and understanding among young people. As more people spoke, the atmosphere in the room began to shift. Tension gave way to empathy, fear to understanding. Angela skillfully moderated, ensuring every voice was heard and respected. Gradually, the conversation evolved from airing grievances to constructive proposals on how to improve the community. During the meeting, a particularly tense moment arose when Mrs. Thompson was directly confronted by other neighbors about her actions on the day of Kevin's party. Sarah, the young mother from down the street, stood up and said, "Mrs. Thompson, I was the one who brought my son to the Johnsons' party. It was a joyful and innocent celebration. How could you call the police on something like that?" Mrs. Thompson, visibly uncomfortable, mumbled something about concerns over noise. Other neighbors joined in, expressing their disappointment with her behavior. Mr. Davis intervened. "Martha, we've known you for years. You're better than this." Facing the scrutiny of her neighbors, Mrs. Thompson finally broke down. With tears in her eyes, she admitted, I was scared of what I didn't know. Now I see how wrong I was." Turning to the Johnsons, she offered a heartfelt apology. Angela skillfully mediated the moment, turning it into a learning opportunity about biases and the importance of knowing your neighbors. The incident, though emotionally charged, served as a turning point in the meeting, paving the way for more honest and constructive dialogue. As the night wore on, the atmosphere in the room had noticeably shifted. What began as a tense gathering evolved into a collaborative forum of ideas and solutions. Angela skillfully guided the discussion toward actionable steps. A diversity and inclusion committee was proposed, with volunteers from different backgrounds offering to join. Plans for an annual cultural festival gained enthusiastic support, with residents suggesting dishes, music, and traditions to share. The idea of a mentorship program between the community's youth and elderly was warmly received. the police department committed to holding regular coffee with a copper sessions to strengthen ties with the community. A campaign to raise awareness in schools about bullying and inclusion was outlined, with Jasmine volunteering to lead among students. As the meeting drew to a close, Angela watched with satisfaction as people exchanged phone numbers and scheduled follow-up meetings. She concluded the night with words of gratitude and hope. This is just the beginning. Together, we are building a stronger and more united Maplewood. As people began to leave, there was a palpable sense of optimism and shared purpose in the air. In the weeks following the community meeting, Angela dedicated herself to implementing significant changes within Maplewood's police department. She developed a comprehensive training program on implicit bias, inviting diversity experts and psychologists to lead interactive workshops. Every officer, from rookies to veterans, was required to attend. The sessions included case studies, role-playing, and candid discussions about personal experiences. Angela also introduced a performance evaluation system that incorporated community engagement metrics and peaceful conflict resolution. She faced some initial resistance, especially from older officers, but remained steadfast in her vision. Our job is to protect and serve everyone, without exception, she reminded her team constantly. Gradually, Angela began to notice subtle changes, officers approaching situations with more empathy, an increase in positive interactions with the community, and a decline in complaints of unfair treatment. Though the process was slow and sometimes challenging, Angela felt they were on the right path toward a more just and effective police force. Inspired by the recent events and eager to contribute positively to the community, Michael decided to start a mentorship program for local youth. He began by talking to parents, teachers, and community leaders to identify children and teens who could benefit from additional guidance. Michael developed a curriculum that combined practical life skills like financial literacy and college prep with discussions about identity, diversity, and overcoming adversity. He recruited other professionals in the neighborhood to serve as mentors, creating a diverse network of positive role models. The program quickly gained popularity, with weekly sessions held at the local library. Michael was especially touched when he saw young people from different backgrounds forming friendships and supporting each other. A particularly rewarding moment came when Tyler, the boy who had made insensitive comments at Kevin's party, joined the program and began showing a positive change in his attitude. Through this work, Michael wasn't just helping Maplewood's youth, he was also building bridges between different sectors of the community. Motivated by the discussions at the community meeting and her own experiences, Jasmine took the initiative at her school. With the support of a sympathetic teacher, she founded the Maplewood High Rainbow Club, dedicated to promoting diversity, inclusion, and mutual understanding among students. Jasmine worked tirelessly to recruit members from various ethnic, religious, and socioeconomic backgrounds. The club organized weekly lunches where students could share personal stories and discuss issues of identity and prejudice in a safe environment. They also planned cultural events, such as an international food festival and a multicultural art fair. Initially, Jasmine faced skepticism and even some teasing from peers, but her determination was unwavering. Gradually, the club began to earn respect and popularity. A moment of pride came when the school principal publicly praised the club's positive impact on the school environment. Jasmine found that through her leadership in the club, she wasn't just making a tangible difference, she was also finding her own voice and confidence. With the support of his family and the positive changes happening in Maplewood, Kevin started to feel more confident and open to making new friends. He signed up for a newly created community sports program that offered a variety of activities for kids of all ages and abilities. On the first day, Kevin was nervous, but he was warmly welcomed by the coach and the other participants. He discovered a natural talent for basketball and quickly became an integral part of the team. Through practices and games, Kevin formed bonds with kids from different parts of Maplewood. including some who had previously avoided him at school. One Saturday, after an especially thrilling game, Kevin was invited to a birthday party by one of his new friends. He came home beaming, excitedly telling his parents about the jokes shared and plans for future playdates. Angela and Michael exchanged looks of relief and joy, seeing their son finally feeling accepted and happy in their new community. The sports program not only improved Kevin's athletic skills, but also became a fertile ground for interracial friendships and mutual understanding among Maplewood's children. Following the recommendations from the community meeting, Mrs. Thompson, still grappling with guilt and a desire for change, decided to attend a diversity and inclusion workshop hosted at the local library. At first, she entered the room with apprehension, feeling out of place among younger and more diverse participants. The facilitator, an experienced educator on racial issues, created a welcoming and non-judgmental environment. During the activities, Mrs. Thompson was challenged to examine her ingrained biases and the roots of her fears. In one particularly impactful exercise, she listened to personal stories of discrimination that brought tears to her eyes. Throughout the workshop, Mrs. Thompson began to open up, sharing her own insecurities and her desire to change. She formed an unexpected bond with a young black mother, exchanging experiences and perspectives. By the end of the day, Mrs. Thompson left with a new understanding and a renewed commitment to being an ally in building a more inclusive community. She even volunteered to help organize future workshops, feeling that she had much to learn and contribute to Maplewood's journey of transformation. Inspired by the positive energy of the community meeting and the Johnson family's ongoing efforts, Maplewood residents began taking initiatives to make the neighborhood more welcoming and inclusive. A group of neighbors came together to plan a series of monthly block dinners, where each family took turns hosting and sharing dishes from their cultural heritage. The first dinner, held at the Davis household, was a resounding success, with an eclectic mix of soul food, Italian dishes, and Asian specialties. Kids played together while adults chatted, discovering shared interests and dispelling misunderstandings. On another weekend, a group of young parents organized a Maplewood talent show at the local park, where residents of all ages showcased their skills, from singing and dancing to juggling and poetry. Mrs. Thompson surprised everyone with her origami skills, teaching kids how to make paper birds. These events not only provided fun, but also created natural opportunities for neighbors to get to know each other beyond superficial differences, strengthening Maplewood's social fabric. Despite the significant progress, Angela continued to face challenges within the police department. A group of older officers, led by Sergeant Miller, a 20-year veteran of the force, showed resistance to the new policies and training. They argued that the changes were unnecessary and undermined traditional policing authority. Angela heard rumors of secret meetings and complaints to the union. The situation came to a head when Sergeant Miller openly refused to participate in a cultural sensitivity training. Angela called him into her office for a private meeting. Firmly, but with empathy, she listened to Miller's concerns and explained the importance of the changes for the safety and trust of the community. So, we're not abandoning good policing, Sergeant. We're evolving to better serve all citizens, she argued. The conversation was tense but productive. While Miller wasn't fully convinced, he agreed to give the new approaches a chance. Angela knew that changing the department's culture would be a long and sometimes painful process, but she was determined to persevere, believing that the end result would be worth the effort. 6 months after Angela's new policies were implemented, the results began to show within the Maplewood Police Department. Statistics revealed a significant drop in complaints of police misconduct and an increase in positive community feedback. Officers who had initially been skeptical began to see the benefits of the new approaches. Officer Johnson, who had responded to the call at Kevin's birthday party, became a vocal advocate for community policing, regularly organizing coffee with a cop events that became popular with residents. Diversity and recruitment increased, with more women and people of color joining the force. Angela noticed a palpable shift in the department's atmosphere. There were more open discussions about difficult cases and a greater willingness to find creative solutions to community problems. A particularly gratifying moment occurred when Sergeant Miller, previously resistant, publicly praised the success of a conflict intervention based on the new de-escalation techniques. Angela knew there was still a long way to go, but she felt proud of the progress and the growing harmony between the police and the community they served. Maplewood's relative peace was shaken when a controversial incident occurred involving a black teenager and a white police officer. The boy was detained on suspicion of theft, but witnesses alleged excessive use of force during the arrest. The case quickly gained local media attention, threatening to reignite racial tensions in the community. Angela found herself at the center of a storm, pressured from all sides. She knew that her response to this incident would be crucial in maintaining the trust she had worked so hard to build. With determination, Angela acted swiftly. She temporarily suspended the officer involved, initiated a transparent and impartial investigation, and met personally with the teenager's family. In a press conference, Angela promised a thorough review of arrest and detention procedures. She also organized a series of community forums to discuss the incident and hear residents' concerns. Throughout the process, Angela maintained open communication with all parties involved, skillfully navigating the needs of the community, the concerns of the department, and the demands of the legal process. Her firm yet compassionate leadership during this crisis not only prevented an escalation of tensions, but also reinforced the community's trust in her integrity and commitment to justice. Inspired by Angela's work and the visible progress in the community, Michael decided to get more involved with the Maplewood Homeowners Association. He ran for and was elected to the board, bringing a fresh and diverse perspective to a group that had traditionally been homogeneous. Michael quickly became an influential voice, proposing initiatives to make the association more inclusive and representative of the entire community. He led efforts to have important communications translated into multiple languages, ensuring that all residents could fully participate. Michael also proposed and helped organize the first Maplewood Diversity Day, an event that celebrated the various cultures present in the neighborhood. His calm and diplomatic approach helped mediate conflicts and build consensus on controversial issues. One of his biggest successes was the creation of a community scholarship program for local low-income students, regardless of race or background. Through his work with the association, Michael wasn't just making a tangible difference. He was also changing perceptions and breaking down barriers, showing that leadership and excellence can come from any background. Despite the progress in Maplewood, Jasmine encountered a painful incident of discrimination at school. During a history class discussing the civil rights movement, a classmate made a racist comment, prompting laughter from a few students. Deeply hurt, Jasmine initially froze in shock and humiliation. However, remembering the lessons of courage and self-assertion she had learned from her parents and through her work in the Diversity Club, she decided to stand up for herself. In a firm voice, Jasmine confronted the classmate, explaining why the comment was offensive and harmful. She shared personal experiences of discrimination, moving many in the room. The teacher, initially caught off guard, supported Jasmine and used the moment as a teaching opportunity for the entire class. In the days that followed, Jasmine received a sincere apology from the classmate and messages of support from many students. The incident, though painful, strengthened Jasmine's resolve to fight against prejudice and inspired other students to speak out against discrimination. Her courage didn't go unnoticed. She was invited to speak at a school assembly on respect and inclusion, solidifying her role as a young leader in Maplewood. Over the following months, Kevin's transformation became increasingly evident. The shy, insecure boy who had arrived in Maplewood was becoming a confident and outgoing child. His participation in the community sports program not only improved his athletic abilities, but also significantly expanded his social circle. Kevin now walked the school halls with a smile on his face, greeting friends from various backgrounds. In class, he began volunteering more to answer questions and participate in discussions. A particularly memorable moment came during the school talent show, where Kevin, overcoming his stage fright, performed a juggling routine he had practiced for weeks. The ovation he received filled him with pride and a sense of belonging. At home, Angela and Michael noticed with joy how Kevin enthusiastically talked about his school days and plans with friends. During a family dinner, Kevin surprised everyone by saying, "You know, I really love Maplewood now. It's the best place to live." These simple words moved his parents, who saw in them the proof that their efforts to create a home in a more inclusive community were paying off. Mrs. Thompson's transformation was gradual but remarkable. After the diversity workshop, she began making conscious efforts to engage more with her diverse neighbors. Initially awkward and sometimes uncomfortable, she persisted in her attempts to connect. Mrs. Thompson started attending the block dinners, bringing her famous ginger cookies and learning to appreciate new flavors and traditions. She volunteered to help with the after-school tutoring program, where her experience as a retired teacher proved valuable. A significant moment came when she invited the Johnson family over for afternoon tea. During the visit, she apologized once again for the party incident, this time with a deeper understanding of the impact of her actions. Angela and Michael were touched by her sincerity. Mrs. Thompson also began using her influence among the older residents to promote acceptance and inclusion. Though she still made occasional missteps, her willingness to learn and change was evident. Her example inspired other older neighbors to reconsider their own attitudes, creating a ripple effect of positive change in Maplewood. The highlight of the year in Maplewood was the organization of the first Maplewood Diversity Celebration, an event that symbolized the community's transformation. The organizing committee, led by Michael and including Mrs. Thompson, worked tirelessly to create a festival that represented all the cultures in the neighborhood. The Central Park was transformed into a vibrant mosaic of booths, each representing a different culture with food, music, and unique traditions. Jasmine and her school diversity club organized a student art exhibit celebrating identity and heritage. Kevin and his friends from the sports program gave demonstrations of various sports from around the world. Angela coordinated a friendly police presence, with officers participating in activities and positively interacting with residents. The celebration drew not only Maplewood residents but also visitors from neighboring towns, earning positive media coverage. The most emotional moment came when all the participants joined hands to form a giant dance circle, with music from various cultures playing in sequence. Watching the joy and unity around her, Angela felt a wave of emotion. Maplewood had come a long way, and though there was still work to be done, this moment of collective celebration was a living testament to the power of community and the possibility of positive change.